Do you remember this?
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
the censorship resistant page. It was
Yeah, sure.
one of the first meme we developed in the early. It was
Absolutely.
about Robe,
Yeah,
if you remember that. It was
yeah.
about just a series of data, put it on chain. Yeah, very expensive. Uh, but to have something that is totally decentralized and not without relying on EPFS to, and that was fun at the time to working on that and
Mhm.
to at least the DFO hub. And when we started with DFO hub, so for example, this was the non-con conversation
Mhm.
we made. We was focusing on the decentralization part of dApps,
Mhm.
basically. Sorry, but yeah, YouTube is it's very slow, and so I think this is the right. Oh. Yeah, I think that slide is the right one I want to show. Yeah. So that was the aim we always said in the beginning. So achieving community-driven startups without founders, developed, used, funded, and improved by anonymous people without need to trust each other and without needs of off-chain stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
So that was our aim. And uh, the first version of the FO app was to fill this aim. Because we started thinking about the factor that if you have Ethereum and all of this security layer, resistant from country, and you just using to relying on real world companies and people, so the Web2 is faster and cheaper. And so that's why we started. And so we started with DFL Hub. That if you remember the first web page, for example,
Mhm.
there was about all of these things and related to on-chain governance, basically.
Sure.
And what's happened after? We faced it with all of the problem that Ethereum's have if you want to run a project without need to being captured by real world corporation and all of these things. And so if you remember, the first problem was the token image, obviously.
Okay.
On Uniswap, but that was just one of the things. And the second thing was the relationships with the DeFi ecosystem.
Mhm.
So, and the relationship with Etherscan,
Yeah.
the relationship with the Ethereum community in general. That Ethereum community is pretty cool, but sometimes pretty lobbyist. There's some lobbyism there.
Sure.
And so when we started about this aim, and we started our journey with all of the people that comes around in the early days, from speculator, from people that understood the project, from people that made memes on 4chan.
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy who explained the DFO app better than us in the beginning?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That one was like he hijacked my mind and extracted all the data and draw the schema. Yeah, I remember that was really awesome because it was like, hey, this stuff is interesting for everyone, so maybe it can be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so why now we are talking about Ethereum SOS? Because to achieve our goal, on-chain governance is not enough. Because we face the factor that you can have on-chain governance. And so, okay, you're cool. But you have to deal with a lot of aspects that are totally sorry, but the Canonical Council. I have to take this into account. So the factor is that we face a lot of things that makes a project from the beginning for anonymous people that don't need to trust each other impossible. And so that's why we started working with NFTs, for example. This is why we built from scratch first version of Unify. Because we figured out that, okay, you have on-chain governance, but you have to deal with Ethereum in general. So you have to deal with the factor that there is no common standard there. So do you remember what was our thought when we when you started working with the NFT ecosystem?
Yeah.
Say what you want to say, because that's what I think too.
All I want to do is cry. So maybe to say nothing. Yeah, all the stuff to have support and to have tools which let the people really that can really use this stuff in globally at 360 grades. Yeah, it was a little bit tricky at that time. Yes.
And there's no standards. Most of the metadata is basically in some Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
And they locked in some cases external websites to download.
Yeah, sure.
NFTs metadata. That's pretty crazy because people in the space are buying object that basically all of the information of this object can be changed by a company whenever it wants. So, we thought that the Ethereum ecosystem was better. That is the reality when we start this project. We thought that all of the things that we have in our mind as justice, as sense of justice, was already there. So let me show an example. When I started talking about DAOs and all of this technology, I thought that all of the DAOs should run code, not just make polls. I learned that there are DAOs to make polls on the go on the FAO app because I didn't know that it's possible that people trust these things. Okay, that's the reality. Sure. Okay, and so right now, that as I mentioned it most of the time, we are facing something that we call the phase 2 of the project. So from the phase 1 to the phase 2. And why the phase 2? It's about DFLs, it's about Unify, and it's about items. Most of the people saying shits in 4chan, just saying, oh, these Italian guys just like to make shit coins and all of these things. And I think it's our fault that they think in that way, because we build a lot of things, we work a lot on the code, and we didn't take time to give people the big picture of what's going on on the project. And that's our fault. Sorry if we are focused on the code, basically.
We love to code. That's our part.
So, and this conversation, it's all about to fulfill this. So from today, I'm happy to announce that we are rebranding into Ethereum's OS. Yeah, I'm talking about an operating system of Ethereum, and this will be the big brand of this project, because we figured out that we have to build up an operating system to reach our goal, not just on-chain companies, not just IDEM, not just Unify, but all together. And this can help to stop misleading about what we are doing, basically. And rather than using slides, I want to use the explainer we made. That is the new explainer of the project, basically, that you can find right now at ethereumsos.at.link. So let me share the screen. Just a sec. So, yeah, stop screen. Give me a sec. So this guy is EthOS. EthOS is all about on-chain organizations, items, Unify. The Bitterbank is part of it, but that's most cases. And to explain why it's fundamental, I think this infographic explain everything as much as needed. So basically, the Ethereum's OS is a tool with these three dApps combined that you can use them alone or you can use them combined. And is basically a base layer to run the code of dApps and DAO, and with the aim to be fully decentralized and to don't need to rely on third parties to do everything you need to do. First of all, obviously, we have the on-chain organizations that currently is described as flexible organizations, where you vote to execute code permissions and basically to rule the code of functionalities of the app or DAO that can change fixed functionality in these apps, but you rule the code. That's the basically new things. And items. That items is a token superstandard and is a security layer in the Ethereum OS. Because basically every existing token can be wrapped into items, and items is a shared standard in terms of methods and methodologies that you can be sure when you build a dApp that without need to add special things for a project or for one other, you can build using these standards. And so basically, this is the thing. There are two main approaches in Ethereum about tokens. I mean, there is one approach that is de facto that you run a dApp and you choose the tokens that can use this dApp. So for example, we have MakerDAO, we have Compound, and all of the projects like that. And that's as good for security, but obviously is bad for the whole philosophy and decentralization of the ecosystem, because I think it's pretty obvious you're generating lobbies and these kind of things. The other approach is the open approach. So building dApps that are welcome every kind of tokens like Uniswap or Balancer or AMMs. That is cool because this is how Ethereum should be. But at the same time, you have to deal with a lot of security problems. Not just from security problems that you face today, but security problems in the future. So new token standards or new things that can happen in the future. So that just remember what was happened in the early DeFi ecosystem when Flash loan started. And so that is Ethereum, and everything is evolving in time. By items, you have the security layer, and you can be focused only in one standard. And you can be sure that your dApp is open to all the existing tokens. So existing NFT, existing ERC20, item native, and everything that is on top of Ethereum, but securely without need to be focused on the security of your interaction with different token standards and different things. And something that the R&D name is Portal, that is currently Unify, that is basically the connector from organization and the DeFi ecosystem, because the DeFi ecosystem is basically very have the same problem that we mentioned before, but about projects. So, for example, every project create their own farming things with most of the most famous tokens and all of these things. And so with Portal, you can integrate all of the financial things to the DeFi world, basically, without need to build every time the same things, and without need to build a specific thing just for a dApp and so on. So there is a multi-MM functional integration that basically is kind of an API that you can call for standard things that every MM have, and so you can integrate your dApp with MMMs very quickly and easy. And so in Portals, we have the USD, that is the stability of the OS, and it's one of the most stable, secure stablecoin, because it's based on a rebalance system that made you secure from the failure of all of the existing stablecoins, and so all of the industry basically of whitelisted stablecoins, and obviously now it will be multi-MM. So the farming, inflations, and all of this stuff will be from there. So when you run a dApp here with the Ethereum OS, you will be totally secure, and it's in an environment that is based on the factor that you are decentralized, that you have metadata of your project, metadata of your token on chain, and all of these things. And so that's the point of the Ethereum OS. And so we built a new frontend that is basically the explainer of this operating system on top of Ethereum. And so this is why we focus on building Unify, items, and DFO Hub, both of these applications. Because if you have on-chain organizations, but you need a sellerman that have friends into the biggest guys on the DeFi, so it's pretty just useless. Or if you need to rely on third party for your token information, or if you need to be part of some friendship there. And so there is a lot of things that that we are facing in this evolution of the protocol. And so the ethos is about the on-chain organizations. That is this. And yeah, we have a lore, and we will set up a lot of things in the future about our lore of this ethos things. And so that's a very cool explanation that people can use, I think, to understand the difference from DAOs to on-chain organizations. And that I think someone leaked in the last days. And that's the governance structure of a DFO. And so I want to leak some parts of the developing we are doing, basically, to reach the Ethereum OS. Is the mixing of all of these things. So is the Ethereum Computational Organization, that is the next release of the DFO Hub. Obviously, the name is the R&D project name. So before the mainnet, we will change it. And so there is a couple of things that are fundamental to understand what's going on. So okay, cheaper governance, so everything will work better. Item-based treasury, so all of the on-chain organization will have an automatically wrap of every token existing into items, so they can be sure that when they develop their functions on top, they can rely on working just with one standard that it's easy to build and it's secure. And that's an important part, because that's everything can happen, and you need to rely on third party when you have things. And so Item can solve this problem about the security of object use. Sub-DAOs, that is another important thing. So it will be very easy to manage the code of DAOs with a DFO, basically. And so you can rely on some simple decision, some fixed decision in functionalities without need to go every time in the DFL level. So it's these permissions to all of the code, but with small governance, they just have the permission to change fixed rules in functionalities. That's what DAO is basically, basically. And so you will be able to easily set up sub-DAOs and vote to deploy sub-DAOs for your functionalities. Serverless sub-DAOs, another invention. That so basically is the idea to have very quick governance. So DAOs today works about surveys. So you have to create the surveys, and people can vote the surveys, and all of the things related to that. And the DeFi, it's very, very fast. And so with serverless governance, you can have fixed choices. So you can say, okay, for example, a fee for running a functionality and all of the things. You can set up 6, 10, or whenever choices, and its governance rules, basically. And so when holders that can vote, they vote for one selection and reach a cap of staked tokens simultaneously, automatically the function makes this change, and so communities and projects will be able to roll very quickly things that needs to be changed quickly. Okay, and that's an interesting experimentation. Multi-token governance, so it's the fact that the DFO can have different tokens with different voting powers, and that can open a lot of new structures in a DFO. So, for example, you can vote with, you can set up that liquidity tokens are more powerful than just tokens held by holders. Or you can build a game and set up games items as governance tokens, and all of these things, both at the DFL level, both in the subDAO and the subDAO level. Minecraft, the factory-centric architecture. And the versioning. So basically, there are kind of simple functionalities. That's the functionality that we are facing today in most of the microservice people use in DFO. And there are factories that are general purpose contract that you can make some selection and build your own and vote to add to your DFO. And we work to improve the existing of a lot of factories in the next release, and especially the fact that it's very easy for people to deploy a general purpose factory to set up some fees they want, and for projects, for DFOs to have some kind of idea of the security of these factories based on how much other projects are using them, and the versioning. So if a factory update, so you can choose to use the old version, the new version, or to easily update your functionality to the new version, and so on and so forth. Yeah, improved integration. So for example, with ZNS and all of these things, we will make better integrations that will be easier to manage, for example, multi-domain names or all of these things via DFO. And the main focus is to be a totally GitHub replacement in some ways. So de facto that you can use your on-chain code or of your DFO like GitHub repo, and de facto that developers can see governance of DFOs like a PR on GitHub. But the difference is that is execute automatically. Maintenance mode is another interesting thing. So project can, when they reach, for example, they can build some kind of finalities. So basically, if you build a project and this project is already working and you want to stop the DFL level voting, that in some way can be some kind of an attack, and rule all of the structure just with sub DFLs, you can vote to go in maintenance mode. And when you are in maintenance mode, it's very difficult to return, to unlock the maintenance mode. And so you reduce the kind of attack. So I don't think this is helpful for all of the project, but in some ways can be very helpful. Some new optional governance rules and standards. So like de facto that voted can be affected by lengths of blocks or numbers of voters and so on and so forth. And something that I think it's public that we are working on it, that we are testing on it, is the tokenless governance. So DFOs, in a difference to every other project, are structures where only tokens can make change. Only token holder can make change by voting. So it's not about that me and Marco, we have a company and we have the possibility to update contracts by, I don't know, a wallet or by a multi-sig wallet or by all of these things, but with tokens. And so the problem is that projects that want to maintain a level of deal from the governance in a good way, so reducing in time their power in the governance, but not rug pull people, all of this stuff, it's difficult because you have to hold tokens in some ways. And so the token governance can help in that way, because basically you can vote only in the DFO level, so not in sub-DAOs, by mint, vote, and burn in an atomic transaction. And what does this mean? That the project can manage their initial powers not by held a big amount of tokens, but by have this functionality. And it's basically the same things, but they don't have all of the token there that they can rug pull or do these things. So it's better for everyone, for a good project and for you, for holders. And we will start with some experimental things in the release, experimenting sub-DAOs in the tree DFO of the ethos. So DFO Hub, Unify, and the Titan. First of all, just survey sub-DAOs for fees. So all these protocols have small fees, and users will be able to change quickly these fees by surveillance sub-DAOs. Another things we will experiment is the sub-DAOs for the inflation. And so people will be able to change the amount of inflation with selected choices. So, and this will affect farming and fixed inflations too. And so to manage better the inflation of the equity of the DFO. And another interesting thing is the sub-DAO for dividends. So it's basically farming Ethereum, because the earnings of these DFOs, it's something like how the USD V2 works. So a percentage of earning of the DFO can be farmed by adding liquidity, basically. And so people can add liquidity and farm from the treasury. And the sub-DAO have fixed implementation to vote about how much of the earnings of the DFO will be inflated to pay dividends to people by farming. And for DFO Hub only, that will be the reserve fixed inflation. And so if you think about DFO Hub and the economics of DFO Hub is kind of like a big phones, okay, that have some tokens of all of the project that are built on top. And de facto is that it's a bad idea to dump token of a project or to do these kind of things. And it's not the we thought it was a cool idea to build a sub DAOs where people, as the fixed inflation works, they can create something like another fixed inflation. That is basically by inflating a small portion of selected tokens that are in the treasury, but a very, very small portion, so nothing that is bad for projects. And so it will be very, very easy to choose what tokens, and it automatically runs the percentage that is based on the supply and the holding. And so this is cool because the holders can collaborate to choose how the FO basically earn money from their investments, and because people can choose to don't run it or to run this. And so this is the experimental sub-DAO we will use in that. And so this is the on-chain organizations. Okay, so it's basically like to have equity of a company in the real world, but equity of a protocol that you can vote to run code, to deploy code, and to deploy microgovernance as DAOs to this without need to relying on a company in the real world with all of the real world things that are not synced by the Ethereum needs. So in the real world, we have businesses that work with some logics that are not the same logics that work on Ethereum. So when you have to deal with these two entities, it doesn't make sense, basically. And so Unify is another big part of the ethos. And so basically, it's all about the idea to have an aggregation of all of the whitelisted MMMs, and MMM, not MMMs are other things. Yeah. And so de facto is to have a stable coin, the USD V2, that is basically cool as the USD V1, but multi-MM and with a neural balance system that is better than the old one. And so holder of USD will have the same earning method of DFOs. So USD holders will be able to farm with their USD and earn free USD. And these USD are paid obviously by the trading phase of tokens in the liquidity pool that they put to mint USD. It's a pretty cool idea, I think, because there is not just the idea to have a secure stable coin, but the idea to earn dollars by generate the security of these stable coins. And the rebalancing negative that is about to not to mint equities of Unify as it is the USD V1, by to create some kind of debt, so kind of credit from the system. So when you have to, but I will show you later because this is some hint from the developing that I want to share in the next weekly. And so new farming contracts that are pretty cool. Because you can have free farming, locked farming by mint or by treasury, and they can be added to smart contract wallet, DAOs, DFOs, and sub DAOs on top of a DFO. and so on and so forth. So the same for fixed inflation contract. And index token, that is basically the fact that you can say, okay, I want to build a token that is mintable by adding, by locking different tokens. And this financial instrument can be very, very useful for organizations. And so with on-chain organization, you can roll the code, and with Unify, you can roll all of the financial aspect of the organization. And one of the most important part is items. So items is basically this kind of a super standard token that when you use it, you are secure about the decentralization of this object and about the method. What?
The full functionality of the
functionalities. And so you don't have to think about building with different token standards that can hack your application or all of these things. And obviously, one of the most interesting things about items is the fact that you can use it everywhere. Okay, so both in the as an NFT. So with all of the fancy things that NFT have, so metadata, batch transfer, and as an ERC20. So you don't have DeFi tokens and NFTs, but you have just objects on top of Ethereum that you can use in an interoperable way as you need. And I think this is so cool. And so with items, you can stop relying on third party, for example, for token information and for applications of this token, for example. And so at the end of the day, using the Ethereum SOS, you have organizations that are totally on-chain, objects on top of Ethereum that can be usable everywhere, and that people are secure about their decentralizations and their usage, and the financial connections as an organization to be totally independent from to stay in the decentralized world and to stay totally independent from VCs or real world things. And so that's the Ethereum OS. It's a new OS to build dApps on top of Ethereum with the aim that they are totally independent from real world organizations or from real world partnerships or all of these things. It doesn't make sense in the economy of things on top of Ethereum. And so obviously in this new front end, you can find information about all of the equities, so the voting tokens of DFLs works, how we manage this project using Nerve, and documentation, and all of these things. And from now, in a changing phase, we will rebrand everything as EthOS, and DFL, Unify, and items are part of this OS, and this is the thing. And I hope that this rebrand will help people to have the big picture of what is going on and why we are working so hard to reach our goal. Even if we are doing something that maybe are not super on trend, super excited, super DeFi things, is because we have this long-term vision and we want to create the ecosystem to reach this vision of Ethereum that is decentralized, secure, censorship resistant, and independent from corporations and all of the corporate capture of Ethereum we are facing, especially in the DeFi ecosystem. So that's my presentation. I know I didn't prepare it a lot because I work with CD, Vale Mostro, and other guys to finish this website and to finish all of the things to announce this big change and to explain all of these things until I think the first in the morning of today here. And so that's the what is going on. I hope to address some misunderstandings and some questions about people by explaining all of these things. And so let's start with the mods questions. Asa, CD, everyone?
Yeah.
No questions?
No? Okay. Do you want to share the screen, CD?
Hello.
No, I talking about your questions that after we take
me, of course. So what question I could do here, because
yeah,
I think like I know at the start. So we finally did what we have to do several times ago. Explain everything, and I think that with this website will be the main debunker of all we are going to do and what we are doing right now. So
yeah, tomorrow it will be fun.
yeah, sure. Are you happy about this?
You mean the debunk or the?
No, the website. How is it explained everything?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important at this point because we faced these problems and we going forward to solving that without explaining exactly why in a big picture way of doing it. And so it's obviously that people reading, oh, there is Unify, oh, there is item. They didn't understand that all of these things are connected to the shared goal of this project.
Sure.
It's probably worth mentioning that some things might change.
Yeah.
And the website will change a little bit. It's basically finished, but there's a few things like you'll see on the Unify page that the upcoming release is called Portals. So fPortal is the current name we've decided on for Unify v2. But Ali and I were speaking at the start of the stream about a brand contest for Unify v2 as well. So it is subject to change, just so we're clear, although I quite like it.
Yeah, obviously, name we are using when we are in the projects, they are not the final name. The final name are when the protocol is in the mainnet. And it's pretty difficult because we want to build the ethos thing with a totally rebranding that is totally makes sense. And it's very, very difficult to find the right terms for all of these applications. And we will share, I think next week, some brand philosophy and lore and standards to try to figure it out with the challenge. What is the best name for Unify v2 and what's the best name for DFO version 5 and how if we want to switch from DFO, I think it's a good idea, but some people are arguing it's not. So we will have all of this conversation to try to figure it out the best pragmatic way to rebrand all of these things and to reach a logic in names and the brand, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So okay. Well, sorry, Vasa.
No. I just wasn't saying that now the people have a lot of stuff to read.
Yeah.
A lot of questions will come.
Yeah. I bought a book for everyone for Christmas, I think.
Oh, cool.
By deploying this page. So let's start with the question on Discord. Obviously, I will make some more detailed video and MAAs during developing all of these things, and so this. So stop screen share and new screen share with Discord. Okay. And so obviously you can find this in .at.link.
I already shared that.
Yeah, I just put in the. So, okay. Is this real? This is the biggest question I ever read in my life from Hero. But let's start with French Fry. Dev interest is growing, but building on top of Beetle can still be esoteric and alienating for a developer. I would love to hear more about plans for developer outreach, documentation, and onboarding. I think I totally agree with French Fry, because basically building on top of DFOs is totally, I can say, a different way to build on top of Ethereum, because you have to think about the factor that you can't think as a corporation. You have to think in a microservices way. You will be also think in a DAO perspective too. And so yeah, as we said in the next release, the documentation will be very well written for the 0.5. The documentation now in 0.3 is very difficult for humans, but it's the earliest version, and so I always saying that I'm personally seeing more as an adoption stage than 0.5. So that's why we care more about the documentation there as we cares in items. You, Vasa, want to say something?
I think that we already responded at this question in the previous sessions, but I'm not so sure it's so difficult. I think that okay, there is no documentation, and this is of course, but of course true. But there is tons of examples people can follow, and because all the code we push it. And all the DFLs that are outside there brought their code, and with the descriptions of the code, if you remember. So people have actually have the code and the description of the code, which is a kind of documentation. Yeah, it's not structured, but it's a start. And for example, people like Max already started, and as I remembered before in the previous sessions, there were someone which just started to play in Ropsten with it. So I think that the Ropsten stuff is there and working, so you can just create and start to experimenting without losing nothing. So
yeah, but I think the perspective, let's say in French Fry, is about a guy who entered in the space, so in the Ethereum Swift space for the first time, and so we don't know all of the things, and so it's pretty difficult to reach all of the information, reach all of the logic behind the DFO, and at the same time work on top of it. And so yeah, that's for sure one of the biggest focus we have for the 0.5 basically. I think. Okay, so I will be asking here a very specific question. Ewo, I hate you. But I believe its scope, no, obviously I'm joking. I believe its scope is large and fit right into what we should ask ourselves when it's come to building something in an ecosystem like the one we are in. There are a lot of things happening right now in crypto, and the space is exciting. However, only a few people are getting the visibility they deserve. I'm talking about some early Bitcoiners or good developers contributing in BTC, about the guys who build around that too, but also about controversial personality such as Andre Conge. Andre Conge got a lot of visibility recently, like a lot. When I first heard about him, he was writing code reviews and wrote something about Perlin. It was the beginning of a series of smart moves. I'm not getting into the details here. Yes, you are.
You lie.
Everything is out there, and the guy is good. I'm not questioning that, but he is not good just at coding. He's good in the way he gathered the right partnership for his projects to grow, and this is gathering people to use those. He is connected. Why he is connected? Money, harsh, but sure. He understood very early that token price appreciation is best marketing you could have, and yeah, it's the longest question ever. Funny, it's the longest question ever. Totally agree with you. On one hand, he say his token hold no value. On the other hand, he left the Yarn governance make the Yarn price what is without stopping it. What do you think about such strategy related to price? This question could be misunderstood as a Monboy question, but it's not. I'm afraid people only partner and bid where there is no money to be made. For instance, in contemporary art, people run after visibility in the same way. It's not specific to crypto, and yeah, okay. I know a lot of fans don't consider this issue. Developer consider Ether. I'm simply curious about your stance to take on this, and will be more happy to be proven cynical and naive. I think all of these people think in that way, but think about ETH. So Ethereum is a totally developer first community with no partnership and all of this boomer things. But it's about building the technology that really the ecosystem needed. And that's what makes Ethereum really valuable, not short-term partnership, pumping prices, and all of these things. And so it's not totally really. It's not totally really. There are two different kind of vision I saw in the crypto space. Most of the Bitcoiner vision that they have only knowledge about financial things, and maybe they was just lucky to be in the community there, not because they wrote, not because they understood the philosophy, the real philosophy behind Bitcoin. That it's not just to make money, but it's just to create a new technology that people will use and that can be a game changer in the world. So my position is that if you build a technology that really helpful for people, you don't need to rely on this partnership and boomer things, but you have to just make the real cool tech. And in the short run, obviously, partnership are cool for people, for holders, because, oh yeah, they made partnerships, so I make a lot of money. But in the long run, this can be very, very a bad move because I don't know. I never invest my personal money about reading things about partnerships, and that's why I didn't lost a lot of money. So that's it. That's my opinion. I know it's not the fancier opinion, but that's what my thinking. But thank you for the question. What kind of role do you see yourself have after it is fully decentralized? A VC. So when we reach the 1.0, I think it's maybe before, and the 0.8 or something. Basically, the Nerve team will become a VC that will invest in startups on top of the protocol via a lot of things we are working on, so IBOs and all of things, and reinvest the earnings into the developing from other teams into the protocol. And so, because the aim of Nerve, because our journey will not ending with the 1.0 of the FOAB, and we strongly believe that to really make change, you have to create a different and competitive way to build on top of Ethereum rather than open a company and go to VCs. And so that's the point we want to experiment there. And so a new kind of on-chain VCs that invest in projects that have fixed things with empowered by sub-DAOs and by other people that help in these investing things and so on. So it's kind of like a YAL evolution, but it's more based on not short-term speculator, but long-term things, and create real things. Looking out into the further future of ACOs, I could envision certain dApps that perhaps aren't fit for Ethereum's blockchains, like messaging, or perhaps some new function that allow IRL voting that will require some level of privacy. Will the FOAB be compatible with the other blockchains beyond that too? If yes, can you explain how? If not, will this be a detriment to the ecosystem growth? I think that's an interesting question. Nobody knows what will happen in the future. Nobody knows if Ethereum will be the main blockchain in the space. I personally think yes. I don't know the position of Marco about these things. But I think nobody uses other chain at the moment. And the layer 2 are not the solution, because we can use servers at this point. And so I don't know what will happen. I'm pretty skeptic about these things because sometimes, based on hype, people forget the main things, why Ethereum is cool and why decentralized things are cool, and they relying some layer 2 technologies or some other chains that have not the same level of security. And so that's the point. I think I see from when I started to building on top of Ethereum, or when I started to be interested in the blockchain space, a lot of trends that and every time people forget this important part, that decentralization is the main focus on everything, and everything that is not focus on these things, it's a trend, and in 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, they will be a dead blockchain or a dead project, basically. Awesome question. The question, the question from Hiwa. Andrew Conge, Laura Sheen podcast. Obviously, we are happy to go into the Laura Sheen podcast, all of these things, but we are investing in developing these things, not in create short-term price change. And so I don't understand the deal about this, because it's all about short-term speculation, and these are money that in reality are not spent to create something that is tangible and it's very real. And so it will be able in the future, maybe via sub DIOs or something like this, to manage some funds in marketing and all of these things, but that's not the case of us. So maybe it's the case of holders. I think here they are talking about Andre. Okay. Why should new DApp project decentralize the first example via DFAO and the BIDL instead of building first and transition to a fully community controlled project later? Because basically it's a point. So if you want to build something that is totally centralized by default, and then adding a DAO by controlling the DAO code, by saying that this is decentralized, then you have real equity. You can, and it's easy to make money in these days. So this is why all people do this, because it's the ICO bubble 2.0. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, I'm talking about my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of Baza or everyone. Just mine. Okay. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Teams that pursue community ownership first. Okay. I don't understand what's happening here. Risk entering community of speculators rather than real users without a working product. Ownership is worthless and the communities won't stick. Teams that pursue community ownership first, starting with a wide token distribution risk. Yeah, I'm in the same page. I think the wide token distribution, it's a bad idea if you run a project, because it's basically, I think we will see a lot of new way to govern things, because you have to deal that most of the people just want to make money and go away, not with a long-term vision. It's the same that's happening in, I don't know, if you take a deal, private sector in the real world as companies and democracies, how is working better? That's the question I asked you. I absolutely talk about the ending point of the technology, not in the philosophical point. Serverless sub-DAOs offer a new innovative solution by bypassing time-consuming servers with an option that can be rapidly voted to grow. Off-chain voting, like Snapshot, might be time-consuming, but aren't serverless sub-DAOs gas-consuming? Everything on Ethereum is gas-consuming. I'm optimist from optimism. Off-chain voting, like Snapshot, it's kind of like opening a forum. Okay, so we can open the Bitcoin Forum 2.0 and saying there what we think. Yeah, I know that Aragorn agreements try to achieve incredible, credible off-chain voting via arbitration, but you are voting a poll in that case, not to execute code. And I think Telegram is better for do this. That's my personal opinion, and I know I'm not politically correct. 4, assuming I really have written a huge DeFi app for lending, insurance, and trading. I tested it on Ropsten. There is a token and about 50 smart contract, currently controlled exclusively by only owner. So you are a custodian of the funds, and you are just like Coinbase in that case, and you will pursue it legally in the future, because in that case you are the owner of the code and the owner of the application. And this is important to think. about decentralization and all of these things in the future, because there's no difference from be a custodian and be a custodian if you custody all of the ownership of the code and all the ownership of the asset and things. In my personal opinion, and I think I heard about DFOs, SEOs, but I'm not sure how to ship it to the community. How I'm going to deploy everything via DFOs, SEOs. Could I also switch at a later point? So that's an interesting question. Okay, so I think these are totally two different architecture, and you have to make something like a big switch of all of your smart contract and things you made to go there, and it will be easier with the new releases, but obviously it's not easy because basically you have smart contract deployed that say that you are the only owner and say that you have a lot of fixed things you can do, so you can doing things with it, I think. So you can rebuild your application on top of a DFO with all of the advancement in microservices and in basically a multi-layer ownership by voting of everything. And I hope you use a responsible DeFi architecture, so with no way that you can touch or transfer or use funds of people. But yeah, I think you have to redeploy everything in that case. And I can't understand why, because it's very easy to open a DFO and start building on top of it. So, and why you have to build before out and then comes in. It's easier to do the contrary. Senpai, how do you see the first product being created once mainnet is released? Do you expect more DeFi protocols to be made or more games at Titan protocols? I think this is my personal opinion, the real use case of Ethereum will be gaming. Because DeFi is cool, but the current DeFi is just make money to make more money without something that people really interact with in most of the cases. And so I think games will be a game changer on Ethereum, and fully decentralized games will be a very interesting point. So I hope for games, but I know that the DeFi will come first because it's the trend and everything is working on top of it. So it's easier to have more DeFi dApps than gaming dApps. And so there is the last question in the live stream. That is basically okay. Can you say some words about the use case of Arte and Unify? So you mean tokens or you mean the DFOs? If you mean tokens, they are programmable equities of a Titan and Unify. So you have the ownership of the protocol and all of this change. And if you talk about the DFOs, Arte is the maintainer of the technology of items, and will earn from fees from the 0.5 about wrapping and wrapping, but very little fees. And so you will be able to manage this technology, the earning of this technology, and so on and so forth. And Unify and items are very interesting. And I have something like 3 minutes. Items are very interesting, and it's a token super standard that is basically interoperable with all of the applications, extendable, and more secure to build on top of it. And so I think you have to read more in the Ethereum site page. And Unify is about the integration with general purpose things on top of the DeFi, so farming contracts and inflation contracts and the USD and all of these things. And so that's the use case of these two DFOs alone, without talking about the ethos. And with the ethos, there is all this gigantic use case that is the idea to total decentralization. And so, okay, that's my presentation.